Hi, my name is Kristen Hurley, and I'm the Executive Director of the American Heart Association of Southeastern Michigan. I'd like to thank McLaren Healthcare and the Great Lakes Michigan chapter of the Links Incorporated for hosting this Heart Talk conversation focused on healthy eating and childhood obesity. Poor diet is a major challenge in the United States. 1.5% of American adults eat the type of diet the American Heart Association recommends for ideal cardiovascular health. Consumers are challenged by eating right. Many of us know we should be eating healthier, but don't know where to start. Here are a few tips to get you started from the American Heart Association. First of all, we want you to eat smart. Healthy eating starts with healthy food choices. You don't need to be a chef to create nutritious, heart-healthy meals for your family that they'll love. Learn what to look for at the grocery store, in restaurants, your workplace, and during any eating occasion. Second, check for the heart check mark. Simply look for our familiar red heart with a white check mark on the packages that you find in the grocery store. When you see the heart check mark from the American Heart Association on a food product, you know it has been put through a robust certification process. The third thing is we'd love for you to add color. Eating a healthy diet rich in fruits and vegetables is directly linked to leading a longer and healthier life. An easy first step to eating healthy is to include fruits and vegetables at every meal and snack, all forms, fresh, frozen, canned, and dried, and all colors count. So go ahead and add color to your plate and to your life. Also, we really can't forget about our kids. 27% of children aged 2 to 3 do not eat a vegetable. And among those who do, fried potatoes are the most common. 40% of children ages 2 to 5 are impacted by childhood obesity, increasing their risk for type 2 diabetes, asthma, and depression. It is so important to build healthy habits early. One way to get kids and families to start this is to maintain consistent meal times and pair new foods with choices kids already enjoy. This is a great way to nurture healthy habits that can last a lifetime. We hope that you've enjoyed these Heart Talk conversations as much as we have. We think that they've been wonderful and dynamic conversations. Thank you for attending, and we hope that you will continue celebrating American Heart Month with us at the Go Red for Women Luncheon digital experience, which is going to take place February 26th at 12 noon. Get registered to attend today by visiting our website, www.heart.org/Detroit Go Red. Thank you so much.
Each year, nearly 700,000 Americans die from heart disease. To raise heart health awareness throughout our communities, February is observed as American Heart Month. This year, the Great Lakes chapter of the Links Incorporated is excited to partner with McLaren Healthcare and the American Heart Association to share heart health messages through a series of webinars called HeartTalk Detroit. Founded in 1946, the Links Incorporated is an international, not-for-profit volunteer service organization with 292 chapters throughout the United States, Germany, the Bahamas, and South Africa. One of the oldest and largest volunteer service organizations, its members document more than 1 million service hours annually. The organization's vision is to enrich communities and improve the quality of life for people of African descent through friendship and service. This objective is accomplished through mentorship, philanthropy, and using the diverse skill sets of the Link's prominent members. The Great Lakes chapter is the 252nd chapter chartered by the Links Incorporated and the 5th Links chapter in Metro Detroit. The chapter's development began in 1988 when its founder, Dr. Ella Mae Stapleton, brought together a group of women interested in improving and developing communities. From that meeting, a special interest group, ultimately known as the Metropolitan Area Service Organization, was established. Motivated by a desire to enhance lives, the group assisted organizations that were focused on the arts, health, national and international endeavors, primarily focusing on issues affecting minorities. After demonstrating a community impact, the years of dedication and philanthropy paid off, and the Great Lakes chapter of the Links Incorporated was chartered during the weekend of January 29, 1993. Now, more than 25 years later, the Great Lakes chapter has become deeply engaged in metropolitan Detroit community efforts. Our members have performed thousands of volunteer service hours for many community based initiatives, such as Matrix Human Services, the Ronald McDonald House, the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, and the United Negro College Fund. The generosity of chapter members, as well as sponsorships received from a variety of industries and entities, enable the Great Lakes chapter to provide charitable support for a wide range of worthy causes. Health initiatives, including heart health, have always been a focus of the chapter's efforts. In addition to supporting the American Heart Association's annual Go Red Luncheon, the Great Lakes chapter supported American Heart Month by hosting Heart Links, a vision for Michigan, in 2013. This initiative included community health fairs and the chapter's first Red Dress, Red Heart luncheon at the Shenandoah Country Club in West Bloomfield. Since then, the Great Lakes chapter has hosted two additional Red Dress luncheons, the second on February 24th, 2018, at the Farmington Hills Manor, and the third community affair on February 29th, 2020, at the beautiful Fellowship Chapel Banquet Hall in Detroit, Michigan. With so many in our community suffering from heart disease, the Great Lakes chapter will continue to develop programming and partnerships that provide heart health education as part of the Links Incorporated National Heart Links Initiative. Learn more about the Great Lakes chapter of the Links Incorporated by visiting greatlakeslinks.org.
Hi, my name is Kim Keaton Williams. I'm the Vice President of Talent Acquisition and Development and Chief Diversity Officer for McLaren Healthcare. McLaren has 14 hospitals in the state of Michigan. Some of those are in communities with a high presence of African Americans. So we have hospitals in Detroit and Flint and Pontiac and Mount Clemens. And McLaren is committed to health equity and committed to access of care for everyone. And I'm really excited today that we are here supporting the HeartTalk Detroit conversation. Specifically today, we are going to talk about healthy eating and childhood obesity. And I'm really excited that we are talking to the Jack and Jill community today. I've been a member of Jack and Jill since 2009, and I know the passion that we all have as Jack and Jill families for our children. I have seen us create outstanding programming for our children in terms of leadership and cultural enrichment and civic engagement. But this piece about our health is equally important. And when you think about heart health, sometimes it's not apparent that we should be thinking about our children. You know, often we think about this later in age, but think about as moms in this Jack and Jill family, all the things that we do to plant seeds early for our kids so that they can grow up to be healthy and happy and successful adults. And one of the ways we do this is through helping them develop healthy eating habits early on in age. So I'm really excited about the program today, where we're all busy and we want to be able to prepare meals for our families that are healthy and beneficial. So I'm sure you are going to get some great tips for today. And I'd also like to thank the American Heart Association and my Link sisters from the Great Lakes chapter of the Links for putting on this program today. So I hope you enjoy. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tara Long Scott. Dr. Scott is a podiatric surgeon who is in private practice at the Foot and Heel Pain Institute of Michigan in Southfield, Michigan. She is a native of Jackson, Tennessee, and a graduate of Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, Tennessee, with a Bachelor of Science degree. She obtained her doctorate degree from the Ohio College of Podiatric Medicine in Cleveland, Ohio, and completed her first podiatric residency at the Baltimore VA Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. She subsequently completed her surgical residency at Kern Hospital in Warren, Michigan, with medical rotations at DMC Sinai Grace Hospital. Dr. Scott is the former chief of podiatric medicine and surgery at Ascension Providence Hospital in Novi and Southfield, Michigan. She held the position for over 10 years and was the first female and African American to hold this position. She is very active in the residency training program at Ascension Providence and served as interim residency director from September 2012 through May 2013. She is also an adjunct professor at Kent State University College of Podiatric Medicine. Dr. Scott is a fellow in the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons, a fellow in the American Society of Podiatric Surgeons, board certified by the American Board of Foot and Ankle Surgery, a member of the American Podiatric Medical Association and the Michigan Podiatric Medical Association Southeast Division, former board member, and National Podiatric Medical Association. In addition, she serves as a mentor to elementary, high school, and college students interested in going into the field of medicine. She has given speeches in numerous school environments regarding podiatric medicine and allows students to shadow her in her office to gain a better perspective about the profession. Dr. Scott has been featured in articles in Black Enterprise Magazine, the Detroit News, the Southfield Eccentric, and the Michigan Chronicle. She was also featured in the first edition of Vital Signs, a publication acknowledging outstanding African Americans in the healthcare profession in the state of Michigan. She has been honored by the Michigan Chronicle as one of their Women of Excellence, and also by the American Business Women's Association as Business Associate of the Year. Dr. Scott is a proud member of Triumph Church, the Great Lakes chapter of the Links Incorporated, and the Southfield Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She is married to professional recording artist Randy Scott, and they have two beautiful children, Morgan and Jordan. We are so excited to have you today, Dr. Scott. What an impressive resume you have, and thank you for sharing your time and your knowledge with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the wonderful introduction, Kim. And good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you to the third installation of HeartTalk Detroit. Today's topic is healthy eating and childhood obesity. The Great Lakes chapter of the Links Incorporated is pleased to present this event with the support of McLaren Healthcare System and in collaboration with the American Heart Association. This event is just another example of our commitment to supporting a healthier community. We recognize American Heart Month and the importance of having these conversations. Unhealthy food choices can lead to childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and increased cholesterol. So as a mother of two teenagers and a family history of heart disease, I'm excited about getting some tips to help them live a healthier lifestyle. But before we get started, we want to take a quick audience poll. Okay. While you guys are taking the poll, I'd just like to comment on the fact that I'm really happy to be having this discussion today. COVID has made the issue of childhood obesity an even greater issue. And the kids were unable to participate in a lot of their extracurricular activities during this time, which really cut back on the amount of exercise that they need on a daily basis. My daughter dances, my son plays basketball and soccer, and they weren't able to participate in these sports during this time. So if you consider the decreased activity and the unhealthy snacking out of boredom or even depression from being in the house and not being able to socialize with your friends, all of these things certainly contribute to weight gain and subsequent health issues. Is everybody able to participate in the poll? Okay, we're going to wait another 30 seconds. And then we'll get down to business. Okay. So to get started, I would like to introduce our first guest. We have Chef Max Hardy. Today we're talking about childhood obesity, and we want to start by discussing how our kids eat. Fast food is quick and easy, but it's very unhealthy. So parents are often challenged to get creative in order to find healthier foods that their kids will eat and enjoy. Our first discussion will be with professional chef Max Hardy, who uses creativity every day to create meal options for his celebrity clients. Chef Max Hardy is a Bahamian American, professional chef, and owner of Coop Detroit and Dead's Detroit. In January 2014, Chef Max competed and finished as a runner-up for the Food Network's Chopped and has been featured in Bon Appetit, Essence Magazine, Fox 5 Good Day New York, NBC's TheGrill.com, and the New York Post. As a professional celebrity / personal chef, Chef Max's clientele has included award-winning music artists, actors, professional athletes, and dignitaries, including T.I., Will Smith, Matt Kemp, Rohan Marley, John Legend, and the Prince of Dubai. Chef Max is also a philanthropist and founder of the One Chef Can 86 Hunger Foundation, a nonprofit organization that works toward raising awareness and fighting the hunger epidemic in America. Let's watch this video, and then we'll come back and have a great discussion with Chef Max.
Becoming a chef is kind of ironic because I thought I'd go to the NBA like any other inner city kid. And I thought basketball would be my way out. But my junior year in high school, I got hurt playing basketball. And during that time, we had a chef that came to our school that wanted to change our program from home ec to culinary arts 1. And those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different culinary programs. And so I completed all those. But during that time when I was hurt, I was like, all right, I got to figure out something to do. So I'll go to the culinary class every morning versus going to the gym. And I make cinnamon rolls, cookies, and different things for the students and sell that to the students every morning. And then that just kind of developed into me doing catering for teachers on every Friday. I would do pans of lasagna, spaghetti, you name it, chicken marsala, and let them take that home for the weekend. So it just turned into just a real true passion and love. And then I got a culinary scholarship to go to Johnson & Wales for basketball and culinary. And I got to Miami and hit the ground running and never looked back. So my culinary journey, I pivoted from being a personal chef and, chef to stars and athletes and traveling all over the country. I pivoted and came back to Detroit and I really wanted to be here and be a part of this culinary, scene that's evolving in the city. So I opened up River Bistro. We got, just great reviews out the gate. We were named number 8 best restaurant in the city. And then, I opened up Coop Detroit, which is part of Detroit Shipping Company. It's a Caribbean influence fusion restaurant, a part of Detroit Shipping Company called Coop Detroit. It's kind of weird. I can kind of hang my hat on just some of the island flavors that I love and grew up on. So I just wanted to bring that to the city. And then we just recently opened Jed's Detroit, which is a concept out of Toledo, where we have fireballs, we have wings, we have pizza. And so it was kind of just a project of labor of love for me, just something, that I eat and love and enjoy as a kid. I just wanted to, do that as, for the community and do it in a sustainable way, in a healthy way as well. One thing for me, I just like to use a lot of flavor, a lot of different ingredients, colors are really important to me, all fresh herbs. Some of the things that stick out, I use cilantro a lot, which has a lot of chlorophyll in it. Use a lot of different herbs, parsley to basil to thyme. And then, some of those other ingredients like quinoa, couscous, cauliflower. We use a lot of jasmine rice and wild rice. And so things that just really true and natural, and it is grown natural, and a lot of fresh vegetables I try to use, and mixing those all together and then finding different cool recipes and thinking outside the box. Using a wide range of seasoning and spices are key to just cooking in general. I always think of like people eat with their eyes, and people, just if they first when they see it, it's like, oh wow, that looks good, so I'm sure it tastes good. So using different spices, again, using a lot of fresh ingredients and making those spices, drying out your thyme, your basil, your herbs, to really, enhance that flavor of those ingredients are always key. And they're always thinking like, oh, I can't taste it, or I want to enhance these tastes with salt. Salt is a good enhancer. However, so many different other herbs you can put together and seasoning and spices out there, and kind of just thinking outside the box, playing with a lot of different, ethnic herbs. Cumin is amazing. Curries are amazing. Marsala is amazing. So have so many different things you just get outside the box and play with. When you're, making these heart healthy meals. We have the Chef Max Spice Blend. And so again, just getting outside the box and looking up some really cool ingredients to use and different spices. So I created Chef Max Spice Blend for that reason. So you don't have to go out and try to figure out, oh, well, I don't want to use salt tonight, I want to use something else. So you can go grab our Everyday Love, which is all natural spices and herbs mixed together to create, that kind of everyday season that you put on all your meats and vegetables. Well, cooking for celebrities and athletes and trying to keep them engaged is a job within itself. I kind of try to have fun with it. And again, it goes back to just my cooking style and just really, saying, hey, let's do taco night tonight and really just playing with some real cool flavors and colors and vibrant, vegetables and proteins. And then just kind of just take them on a roller coaster ride of different cuisines. So, it might be Latin one night, might be Caribbean one night, might be Asian one night, Italian another. So I just try to keep them engaged like that and just kind of really having fun with different cuisines and ingredients. Because, just cooking for them every day or being a personal chef is really tough because they're doing 3-4 meals a day. So you want to make sure that, you're keeping them engaged and keeping them, fueled as well. But just kind of thinking outside the box and kind of just having theme nights and playing with different ingredients is kind of how I do it. And it's been a really success, just cooking for different celebrities, athletes over the years. You just have to always keep them engaged and keep them, just going forward and fueling them with, just great ingredients and fresh ingredients.
Okay, that was a great video. And so welcome, Chef Max. We are so excited to have you with us
today. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good. My husband, Randy, is a professional jazz musician, but swears he would have been a professional chef in another life.
Right. I'm sure he's still an artist, so.
Yes. Creativity is everything.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, I have 2 teenagers at home, so I will definitely be sharing your tips with them later. Your cooking style seems to be built on creativity, which helps to engage your clients in the meals you prepare. And that's something parents may be interested in, but most do not have your culinary skills, including me. So what are some quick, healthy options for kids' snacks?
I mean, for snacks, you kind of just got to figure out what your kids like and what their taste buds and where they're at, and kind of meet them there. If they're sweet lovers, then okay, let's really figure out, how do we give them some healthy sweets, and mix those out. So I always start with like breakfast, like so granola is always one that I really have fun with. You always see kids grab a granola bar, but to really get them to make their own granola is always fun and interesting. So you just go and buy just varieties of grains and nuts and make your own granola, and then maybe add that with some honey and toss that together, make some granola balls, you make granola bars. And then you can add some chocolate to that. So that's something that you can make at home that's really fun. A lot of times you see kids that love yogurt or love popsicles, but let's do a healthy popsicle. Let's take the yogurt and let's put them in the freezer and make a popsicle with yogurt. That's another just something that's engaging and kind of can get their brain rolling, and it's creative. And so they, it's always interesting when they get to do stuff that's fun and outside the box. So those are two things that's really good as snacks. But kind of like introducing them to a lot of different nuts and baked chips. And so I know everybody loves chips, but taking some sweet potatoes and slicing those really thin, brushing them with a little coconut oil and a little kosher salt and baking those off slowly. And that is something they can just leave around the house and leave in the kitchen where, they can just grab it and go. And then, any kind of stone fruit is always fun. And everybody just think of apples and oranges, but so really get outside the box and think of, what's seasonal, peaches and pears and different stone fruits, syringes, nectarines, and just really just kind of seeing what's in the market. And so I just like to just figure out what those seasonal vegetables are and fruit are, and leave those in a bowl and where they can just pick up and go as they're, leaving the house or just, just moving around. So those are some of the things that I recommend as far as like healthy snacks to have fun with.
And that's great. And I think when the kids have their hand in creating what they're eating, they tend to eat it more than if it's something that we cook. What if your kids are like picky eaters? My son is super picky. How do you incorporate vegetables or sneak healthier foods in their diet?
So my daughter's really picky too. So she's 16 and she's, super picky. She's been that way since, a kid. And so it's hard for me to get her to eat anything outside of mac and cheese. But I was like, all right, let's figure this out. So versus making regular mac and cheese, I made a cauliflower mac and cheese. Well, she didn't know, so now she just loves it. And then versus doing buffalo wings, I did buffalo cauliflower. And so things like that is I used to do. But you can always, if you're making a pizza, let them make a pizza with you, but then let them see the vegetables that you add in there and saute those down and cook them and, use that as a substitute of pepperoni. And so just doing things like that, but just in trying to incorporate, like you're making a rice and just make a rice pilaf versus a regular rice. And so just adding mixed vegetables into your rice and doing fresh vegetables, that has a lot of color, because kids, they're interested in colors and, they get excited about that kind of stuff. So if they see peppers, zucchini, squash, and spinach, and, so if it has a lot of color that go into their rice, I think they're a little more accepting to it than them just saying, hey, just eat this.
Right. Do you have any suggestions to update traditionally maybe not so healthy dishes to make them healthier? Just like you mentioned, cauliflower, macaroni and cheese.
Yeah. A couple that just stands out to me. One of that I do all the time, especially even for my clients and for my daughter. She loves fried chicken, and all my clients are like, hey, chef, can you make fried chicken? I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. And so now what I do is I'll take, whole wheat flour, I'll take maybe some buttermilk, and then I'll take cornflakes, and that'll be my crunch versus me frying it. I batter it like traditionally, and then I'll roll the chicken into the flour, buttermilk, and then into the cornflakes, and then I'll bake that, right, at like 350 for 45 minutes. And so it kind of gives you that same kind of crisp as a fried chicken, but a lot healthier for you. So fried versus that. And then just really taking out some of the ingredients that you normally would use that's like high in fat, use versus using mayo, maybe change it out for avocado. This kind of serve the same principle. There's the fat, and then it has the same texture that you're using that for any kind of binding. Getting away from just any kind of sugars and versus sugar using agave or honey. So just really taking some of those key ingredients that we just go to all the time. We just say, oh, I know this. versus using vegetable oil than using coconut oil. So just some of those ingredients that we're so accustomed to using every day, that's not healthy for us, and just kind of switching those out. So I just always say when you're ready to go shopping, make your list of things you're going to buy and figure out how, like, okay, if I'm going to buy this oil, maybe I can substitute this for healthier oil. So just planning is essential and key to a healthier lifestyle. So when you're shopping, just, I say, make that list and then just kind of think outside the box of things you can switch out to make it healthier.
Oh, that is great. And now I know a lot of people are buying air fryers and using the air fryers now. Can you do that same thing with an air fryer?
Yeah, I mean, air fryers is essentially kind of the same thing. I'm not fancy at having an air fryer.
I know you are.
Right. I'm always like, okay, I can just do the same thing in the oven, but it is quicker, and it gives you just I guess it's modern day stuff, so it's really cool. I haven't used the air fryer, so I can't really speak to them as much. But I've seen them, people use them, and so actually my sister made Brussels sprouts last week with them, and so I normally fry my Brussels sprouts. But she was like, we got to use the air fryer. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. And so she fried them, and they came out just as good as mine, not as crispy, but it worked.
It would never be as good as yours. We know that.
Yeah. I think a lot of those new things and those gadgets and technology you can use that's really really good and healthier. You should definitely use those things and to really spike up your recipe and meal preppers.
Yeah, and finally, how early should kids get involved in cooking meals with their parents and meal preparation? And what are easy dishes that the kids can cook?
I think, they should get in there as early as, 5 or 6, they can get in there and start making cookies and kind of spike their interest and, playing with, flour and show them how to make dough and show them how to make biscuits. And I think all those things that you start doing early on kind of just gives them excitement about cooking and excitement about food. And then I think they'll be willing to taste different things and their taste palate will change early on. You don't want to wait until they're 13, 14, 18 to start changing their palate. You want their talent to be changed early on. So even as early as, just babies and giving them, just fresh purees and, let them taste different vegetables that way. So they can kind of get that rolling. So, but I have my daughter in the kitchen, cooking at like 4 or 5 with me. So, and like every day now she's sending pictures of like stuff she made. So it's really fun to see that. But I think the earlier you engage them in the kitchen, the better. And then some of the easier recipes, I'll keep saying pizza. Like pizza is one of those things that speaks to the world, and but it kind of shows them technique. It shows them, just variety. Doing some easy dishes like breakfast, showing them how to make an omelet, showing them how to make a parfait. Show them how to make biscuits, and just all those things that you can really just kind of engage them in the kitchen early, the better. And just different recipes are really cool. And like mac and cheese, I know is something that kids always love. But even showing them just that, there's a lot of skill set, a lot of technique in that, but showing them how to make that healthier as well is good. But get them there early as possible and just really have fun with them, and show them different vegetables and show them how some nice skills and just really engage them. I think they'll their palate will change and they'll just be like, oh, well, mommy, that's not healthy. And so and then you see when you start going to the store, they're like, oh, we can't buy that, let's buy this. And so I think the earlier on, the better.
Well, I need to get my kids in the kitchen a little bit more.
Right. Send them over. I'll put them to work and get them right.
Yeah. And speaking of kids, we thank you for enjoying. Thank you so much for joining us. And speaking of kids,
absolutely,
we have a special guest who's going to replicate one of your recipes. We have Miles Chastain.
He said he's a chef, said he can beat me already.
He may have those kind of skills.
Right. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. So we're actually partnering with the Motor City chapter of Jack and Jill of America on today's webinar, and he's a member of that organization. And so he's going to be cooking your healthy recipes. So let's see what you got, Miles.
Let's go, chef.
Hello.
There we go.
I'm confused right now.
Okay, you can go ahead and get started, Miles.
Okay. Sorry. So, do I need to stand or sit for this?
You can sit so we can see your handsome face while you're letting us know what you're doing.
All right. So, I'm using my ingredients that I have right here, which is some onions, some garlic cloves, and some basil, but I didn't have any of that. So I used Italian seasoning or something like that. And so what I'm gonna do is, well, I have ground meat too. Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Okay.
And I'm gonna crush the garlic cloves with the base of my knife, so I can take off the skin of the garlic clove. And now I'm gonna mince it and put it in one of these small containers.
Okay, so I know you're making meatballs, correct?
Yeah.
Are you making meatballs? And before we go any further, are you a healthy eater?
I would like to say I am, but my family might think otherwise.
Good, good, good. So we will kind of come back to you in a little bit. So you've told us your ingredients and we know you're making the meatballs, and I'm sure you're going to kill Chef Max in this process. So we are going to come back to you in just a few minutes. And again, you're cooking meatballs, correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we will come back in just a few minutes to see how you're coming along with that meatball recipe.
All right. Thank you.
And we would love at some point to be able to taste that. So we'll see how you do. Okay. So as we move on, I want to introduce our two physicians that are our panelists today that we are going to give us a lot of good information. First of all, I'm going to introduce Dr. Jamila Taylor. Dr. Taylor is a board certified family medicine physician who currently holds a position as the medical director of the Ascension Dayton Family Practice Center. She joined the clinical faculty in 2014, where she contributes to the next generation of physicians as a leader in the residency education program. Dr. Taylor attended Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, and returned to her native Detroit to attend Wayne State University School of Medicine to pursue her medical degree, with hopes to address the numerous conditions plaguing underserved communities. Dr. Taylor enjoys the opportunity to share knowledge with patients, medical learners, and the community, and has quickly established herself as one of Ascension's departmental speakers, taking every opportunity to represent primary care in her practice, engaging and partnering with all who are looking to take control of their health. Dr. Taylor is an engaged member and adult Sunday school instructor at the Spirit of Christ Ministry in East Point, Michigan, and an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. As a busy wife and mother to only child, Naima, her membership in the Motor City chapter of Jack and Jill of America Incorporated has allowed Dr. Taylor to engage her daughter in the development of meaningful ideals such as leadership, family, and service to our community. We also have on our panel this afternoon, Dr. Preston Thomas. Dr. Thomas is a family medicine physician who believes that patient care should be a physician's first priority. Born and raised in Pontiac, Michigan, to the late Honorable Preston G. Thomas and Gloria Thomas, Dr. Thomas graduated from his native high school near the top of his class, was senior class president, and participated in several sports. After high school, he attended Michigan State University in East Lansing, Michigan, and graduated cum laude with a degree in human physiology in 1996. He continued his education and currently holds a medical degree from Wayne State University School of Medicine in Detroit, Michigan, which he completed in 2000, and then completed his residency at Oakwood Hospital in Dearborn, Michigan in 2003. Dr. Thomas specializes in preventive care for the entire family and has been working with McLaren Healthcare since 2013. He is currently married to his wife of over 20 years, Dr. Tindy Thomas, and has 3 children, Preston III, Jada, and Grace. In his spare time, he enjoys listening to music, running, and watching movies. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I have a family history of heart disease, and my father died at the age of 39 of a massive heart attack. When I was 18 and just 110 pounds, I was diagnosed with high cholesterol at a routine screening. My cholesterol was 280 and normal is less than 200. I grew up in the South and soul food was the norm for me back then. And because of my family history, I want to make sure that I'm helping my kids make better choices by not only regarding food, but also just being more active. And I am looking forward to hearing what advice these doctors can give to help us and our children live healthier lives. So with that being said, Dr. Taylor, how many calories should kids be consuming daily?
Good afternoon, Dr. Scott, and thank you for your question. You know, a calorie is just a unit of energy. It's a way that we describe how much energy your body can receive from something that we eat or drink. And we know children come in all sizes and their bodies burn calories at different rates. So there's not one perfect number that every child should eat, but there are some recommendations. From age 6 to 12, most children should consume about 1,600 to 2,200 calories a day. And of course, that's depending on how active they are. When they reach puberty, girls are going to need more calories than they do before, but less than boys. When boys enter puberty, they may need anywhere up to 25 to 3,000 calories per day. So I know that you have a teenage son, and sometimes we always say that the boys eat us out of house and home, but there's a reason for that, especially if they're very active. But whether it's a girl or a boy, children who are active and they move around a lot, they're going to need more calories than those who don't.
Just to comment on that, if they are like during COVID, less active, are less calories warranted in a scenario like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just like money in, money out. If we're going to continue to burn those calories, we can't put in more than we're using.
Thank you. Dr. Preston.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Dr. Thomas, are you, well, we're very happy to have you here on the panel as well. And your question, in terms of nutritional guidelines, we've heard about the food pyramid and the healthy eating plate. What nutritional standards should parents be following for their children?
Well, there really isn't any standard that we go by. There's some general principles that we like to go in the professional field. And the principles are pretty much the same as with adults. You want a well-rounded meal and a variety of foods with your meals, such as with the pyramid. We usually recommend for the meats, probably about 2 servings of meats a day. And with those meats, we recommend like fishes, lean meats, protein, poultry, things of that nature. And also we recommend 3 servings of dairy. And dairy can be milk, cheese, yogurts, and things of that nature. And as far as fruits and vegetables, we recommend 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, with 3 of the servings being the vegetables and 2 being the fruits. And fruits and vegetables, just get a variety of the fruits and vegetables. We really recommend to avoid fruit juices. We recommend eating the entire fruit as opposed to drinking the juice. And if you do have the juice, make sure it's 100% pure juice and free of sugars. And if it's a canned fruit, we recommend that it be in its own juice or in water as opposed to in heavy syrup as some of the fruits come in. And lastly, the breads. We recommend whole grains, whole wheat bread, oatmeal. We recommend like 6 servings per day. And we can't leave out the water. We recommend as much as 5 to 8 glasses of water per day in order to sustain yourself.
Another question regarding that, we have a lot of kids now that are vegan. How do they incorporate their proteins in when they don't want to eat meat?
Well, there's a variety of different protein sources. One is peanuts. They can go with peanuts, and chia seeds are actually full of protein as well. A lot of people make these protein shakes that they like to use, especially if they're on a special type of diet. So they don't necessarily have to rely on meat per se to get their proteins. They just have to get a variety of different plant-based proteins.
Great, thank you. Our next question is going to go out to Dr. Taylor. What is defined as obesity in a child? And how do you know your child is considered obese? Some people say, my child is just big boned. I'm just big boned. How do you define obesity in that aspect?
Sure. So obesity is measured by a calculation called the body mass index, or BMI, as most of us know by. It compares one's weight to their height. And in children, we compare these measurements actually to children that were studied in the 1960s and the 80s up into the 90s. And so this information gets plotted on age-specific tables. There's one for boys and there's one for girls. And it's as a percentile versus a number that's usually calculated for most adults. So in children, obesity is defined as a body mass index greater than the 85th percentile, or a child whose BMI is greater than 85% of children their same age.
Great, great. Okay, back to Dr. Thomas. When should parents become concerned regarding their child's weight? Is there an age beyond which baby weight is considered early signs of obesity?
Usually around age 2 is when you start to consider someone being obese and it's not due to their baby weight. And also if they go to their doctor and they're consistently over the 85th, 95th percentile, that can be considered obese as well, just as Dr. Taylor mentioned previously. A warning sign at the doctor is when you're looking at the growth chart and there's a jump of 2 percentile brackets during the 2 different office visits on the growth chart as far as their weight is concerned, but their height is staying consistent. So if they're in the 50th percentile for weight, the next time they're in the 85th percentile for weight, but they're in the 50th percentile for their height each time, that's a little bit of a concern. That's a red flag. That's telling me that their weight is going up, but their height is staying pretty much the same. So that's one thing you want to look at after the age of 2. And you want to make sure you're focusing on weight maintenance, not weight loss. And, they tend to grow out of their weight as they get older anyway, as their height increases. Even though the weight may not go down, they grow into it. So their BMI would decrease, and that decreases their further risk of complications down the road.
Great. Thank you. Back over to Dr. Taylor. Why do you think childhood obesity is so prevalent in the African American community?
Such a complex question. That
Yes.
Almost 36% of African American children are ages 2 to 19 are classified as obese. And when we think about weight, we often can attribute the dietary and the exercise factors, but there are so many social determinants that determine weight. For instance, when you think about children, where do they live? What's their neighborhood like? Do they have safe places to play? And around their neighborhood, are there places or facilities to purchase healthier food options? What's a family's financial status? So parents that may be feeding larger families, they may lean to food options that can feed more for less, and they may not be as healthy. We think about the family health and the disparities and the ability for a family to support a child who's obese. Oftentimes, parents and guardians, they're challenged to implement the healthier lifestyles themselves, and they may not see the value of this for their children. Oftentimes, I share with an adult that need to make lifestyle modifications, maybe because they are obese themselves or they have diabetes or hypertension, that I have to share with them that the things that are good for you are good for the rest of your family as well. So it's all about that implementation of not only a healthier lifestyle for the children, but for the family as whole. And we can't forget trauma and violence. Emotional eating is a huge defense mechanism that's used sometimes to protect children, to make them feel safe. Food can be a comfort for children that have been in those situations. So there's so many factors that go into play. And we know that with our social disparities, that a lot of our African American children are in these situations and circumstances.
Yeah. And it's true, just availability to these parents too, especially oftentimes even in the inner city. For the longest time, there weren't even adequate grocery stores for parents to go to get the food for the kids. I'm glad to see in some areas, Meyer now is in a couple of locations in Detroit, which has been helpful. But it really is, a lot of it is access to it, in addition to not being able to afford it. And then just years of just family tradition. Like I said before, I'm not eating like I was when I was growing up, but I grew up in the South. And so it was that soul food, macaroni and cheese, greens with ham hocks in them and not, turkey parts. So
Making me
we
hungry over
learned
here.
to adjust. We still have that every now and then, but again, it's not in that regular diet like we used to have it. So Dr. Thomas, what are the short and long-term physical effects of childhood obesity?
Well, some of the short-term physical effects of childhood obesity, first and foremost, high blood pressure in pediatrics and adolescents. That's one of the biggest things that I'm seeing right now with my overweight population is elevated blood pressure. And that can have a host of different complications in itself. Also, the increased risk of diabetes. Diabetes is huge, especially in the minority community, African American, Hispanic, or whatnot. And a lot of times it's directly linked to being obese. A lot of it has to do with genetics, but diabetes is also linked to being obese. And a lot of times it can be corrected with weight loss, or if the patient changes their diet and grow into their weight, like I was mentioning earlier. Sleep apnea. A lot of people don't really mention sleep apnea. That's a problem associated with obesity. Sleep apnea is when sometimes the patient may stop breathing at nighttime for a few seconds, or maybe even a minute at times. They may snore excessively at nighttime. That's associated with obesity. Asthma is another thing that's associated with obesity. And joint pains, bowing of the legs, their legs may go outward as they grow up with obesity. Acid reflux is another one. Being overweight can increase your production of acid in your stomach. It increases your acid reflux. And a lot of kids don't want to eat because they know that if they do eat, it's going to cause them to have this acid reflux. Those are some of the short-term. Long-term, definitely self-esteem issues. By far, self-esteem is one of the cruelest long-term complications of being obese. Kids get talked about, they get teased at school, and that just lowers their self-esteem. You can have increased risk of heart disease later on in life with childhood obesity. Depression, I'm seeing that in the office all the time. Every day I see at least one patient in adolescent age suffering with some type of depression, and obesity can increase that risk as well. And lastly, chronic fatigue, because if they're obese, chances are they're not getting a really good diet, so they're probably consuming a lot of carbs to help combat their fatigue, and it gives them a quick burst of energy, and then they crash, so they're chronically fatigued all the time. So in childhood obesity is one of the main things we look at when a patient does come in with complaints of chronic fatigue.
Dr. Taylor, can you elaborate a little bit more? Dr. Thomas touched on this, but on the emotional and mental side effects of childhood obesity. And I'll just comment, even when the child isn't obese. I have a teenage daughter, and they're constantly comparing themselves to these unrealistic people on the internet and on Instagram. And, you know, they've taken photos of themselves in the best light, best position. They figured out what makes them look the skinniest. Can you elaborate a little bit on how that childhood obesity affects them emotionally and mentally? And just in general, if you can comment a little bit on just teenage body image.
Sure, sure. Dr. Thomas was right on the mark. You know, there is a premium on being thin and having a certain body image on social media. And so we have severely stigmatized certain body shapes, certain body sizes. And as our children are growing up and developing their own identity, you know, they're seeing what the standard is. And that standard is usually coming from, like you said, Dr. Scott, from Instagram, from Facebook, or from TikTok, you know, whatever platform they're looking at. And so, of course, it affects the adult psyche, let alone our children, but just what impact that has on them because they're spending so much time there. For little children, even older children, but, you know, bullying. You know, maybe a child's being picked on because they're overweight and maybe they're not able to do the things that other active children are able to do. And so, you know, being bullied, we know, leads to depression. Early onset depression, you know, thoughts of, you know, hurt or harming themselves, excuse me. And that's a vicious cycle. So like I spoke about earlier, when sometimes we're having those negative emotions, what do we turn to? We turn to food, and we turn to those foods that provide us comfort. And so the children learn to be emotional eaters, and they comfort themselves, unfortunately and inappropriately, with the foods that are causing the problem. And of course, you know, in certain circumstances, you know, some children decide that, you know, life is too hard and it's too challenging to live, and you know, they may take the ultimate sacrifice, and that's their life. And so there's so many mental and emotional effects to childhood obesity. And, you know, that list can go on and on. We're seeing, you know, more young adults that are struggling with anemia and bulimia, you know, the development of eating disorders because they're trying to identify with a certain type, with a certain prototype that perhaps they'll never be able to achieve. You know, it's important for us to show what does healthy at any size look like, and the importance of what do lifestyle modifications. We know that, like you said, the best of light, you know, we want the right, you know, foundation piece to suck and tuck everything. But sometimes our children, you know, their brains aren't developing like ours are. They still have a little bit of time to go. And so, you know, we need to continue to stress and impress upon them, you know, not only, you know, self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, but, you know, health at any size, at any shape, and that, you know, their beauty, it truly comes from within.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And actually, I'm going to throw this question out to both of you guys. What about kids and weight loss drugs or weight loss programs? If either of you can, either or both of you can comment on that. And should parents consider that, like a weight loss program or medication to help in the process, in addition to just, you know, trying to give them healthier foods and encouraging increased activity?
Sorry, I was booted out for just a quick second, but I'm back and I just got the tail end of what you were saying. And me personally, in my practice, I do not recommend medications for adolescents and my pediatric patients. I usually recommend for them to become active, especially in this day and age. A lot of kids are sitting at home and they're playing video games a lot, and they're not being as active. You know, looking on social media recently when we had this snowstorm, a lot of people were commenting, well, where are all the kids that used to walk around the neighborhood with shovels and used to shovel the snow for us for $10 and $15? Those kids aren't out there anymore. You know, they're not as active as they used to be. They're at home playing their video games. And, you know, and I also will recommend them to improve their diet. You know, not go on a diet, but improve the foods that they're taking. But as far as putting on medication, I really don't recommend that for the pediatric population.
What about a weight loss program like, you know, how adults do Weight Watchers? What about kids trying something like that? Or do you guys even recommend that?
You know, in certain circumstances, a program like Weight Watchers may be appropriate. You know, we want to make sure that we're using things that are evidence-based. So things that have been proven to work in children. And what we really know works in children is behavior modification. That implementation of dietary changes and exercise really can prove to be beneficial for them. And so I know that, as Dr. Thomas mentioned, there's not many instances that we're recommending, you know, the medications and surgery, right? Because that's a big part of that now. But you know, there are some programs that may help them with, you know, healthier eating habits or lifestyle choices, or you know, eat this, not that, you know, kind of campaigns that could really, you know, really impact children and help them and empower them to make decisions themselves. And so oftentimes there are some programs that may be sponsored by the health insurance or by certain health systems that, you know, focus specifically on childhood obesity. And of course, if those are available, we also, you know, choose those for our patients.
Perfect. Great information. If you have a child that is struggling or a little bit overweight or has some weight issues, how do you address this in a way that isn't damaging to their self-esteem? Dr. Thomas, if you can comment on that.
Yeah, I like to use myself as an example, just a short story. Back when I was in my younger years in junior high school, I was what they would call fluffy. And I was a little overweight, and my mom, she used to tease me about it, you know, even though she was teasing me and was jestful, she teased me about it. And she bought me a shirt that says, I may be fat, but you're ugly and I can diet. And she thought it was so funny. And actually it traumatized me, you know, it made me feel like, oh, I'm lesser than anybody else, you know, and it caused me, you know, I can admit it now, I developed an eating disorder in high school. I was 6'1" and I was 130 pounds in high school, you know, and it affected me that much. It was always in my mind that, okay, she thinks I'm fat, I must be fat. You know, so I developed an eating disorder, and I wouldn't eat. I went out for the track team. I went for marching band because I said, oh, this will help me lose weight by being more active, doing things like that. And it wasn't healthy. You know, I usually say, replace the negative comments with questions. You know, ask the kid, well, how do you feel about this? How is this affecting you? As opposed to making statements to them, you know, which could be negative statements to them, but may not seem negative to you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I know for my daughter, neither one of us was drinking enough water. So we were challenging each other. You know, I challenged her, okay, let's see how many glasses you can get in. If you can get this, you know, eight ounce glasses of water in per day, you know, and we just kind of, it's certain things that I just do with them, you know, not saying, oh, you should do it. I need to do it too. I need to be healthy too. So I kind of sometimes challenge my kids in that way, you know, just doing things together. We got a Peloton. So I'm like, hey, I haven't been on it yet, but I'm like, you know, my daughter and I'm like, okay, we can get on there and there are exercises we can do. So I find that just doing things together is often helpful with that as well. This question is another one just to both of you. In general, in our community, heavier weight seems more acceptable in the African-American community, have a little bigger butt, a little bit, little smaller waist, but a little bigger butt, but these medical guidelines don't support our norm, so to speak, our cultural norm. How can parents address that issue, that you're still cute, even if your behind isn't as big as, somebody else's?
That's
Well, I
a
think
good question.
really should focus on the overall health of the child, not so much on their weight, because people come in different shapes, different sizes, and what may look good on this person may not look good on the other person. So just focus on their overall health as opposed to a set weight for whatever height they are or whatever age they are.
And I think it's important to validate children as individuals. And, there's many people in the world, but there's only one you. And you're made a certain way, you're shaped a certain way. There's nobody can do, and nobody can look like how you look. And it's really important that, we affirm them in that, because I think oftentimes we will give them, as much as we may say in the media, there's certain images that they see, but historically we're giving them certain images that they're looking to. And so when they're a little bit like you said, a little bit heavier in the hips and in the backside, and a little slim in the waist, we think a waist trainer will solve all your problems, right? And so we're giving them some pictures of beauty and how to validate themselves as well. And I think that it's constant affirming, and what is beautiful, and beautiful is you. And again, I told the healthy at any size, because we know that even with the right diet and the appropriate amount of activity, some children are just not going to be thin. I use myself, just like Dr. Thomas uses very often with children, is let's have a real conversation about this. Everybody is constantly working on their weight. I don't know anybody who isn't. Even the thinnest of the thin, and maybe not the biggest of the biggest, but we're all working on it. It's a conversation for everyone to have. And if we continue to normalize that conversation and point it in the direction of health and not just weight, I think we'll get much further.
Okay. And just one more question for now, and then we'll kind of touch base with our audience and get some questions from the chat. What advice do you have for parents who are concerned about their child's weight? What's the best advice for that? And that's going to go to both of you.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say for the parents to give them advice. I would say that the parents should lead by example. Be preparing meals at home and showing their children how to eat. It's so easy for a kid to go out and buy a candy bar at the local store or something like that, or grab a pop or soda in the refrigerator. They need to lead by example. Show them what's good to eat, and show them that even though it's not a sweet candy or it's not junk food, it's still delicious. You can make foods different kind of ways and make it presentable to them, and they'll eat it. You really have to lead by example and show them that, there's alternative ways of eating aside from junk food, and, they'll mold into it.
And I agree with Dr. Thomas. And just like today with Miles, we need to have our children involved in creating and cultivating healthy food choices. They're more likely to eat what they fix, what they've created. And so I think healthy eating and weight management, it's a family affair. And so we have to look at it as not just a child's problem, but it's everyone. And partner with your healthcare provider. I know Dr. Thomas and I probably have those conversations, 100 times a week, if none. Collaborating with us. How can we help? How can we be that accountability partner? What else can we do to help support them? And I think two other things, no judgment. I think, oftentimes we're in a place where, we're assessing some type of value on people of certain weights. And I think that that's always a barrier, especially for our children. And finally, I always tell patients, if you want to lose weight, don't drink your calories.
Yes.
Never
Agree.
get full off of something you drink. So
Yes. Oh, I'd like to comment on that. And then we're going to go to our first question just briefly. What are your thoughts on like Crystal Light and Diet Coke and diet drinks?
Well, Crystal Light, honestly, I actually recommend that for the kids because it has a little less sugar in it than the pops and sports drinks. So I don't have a problem with the Crystal Light. The diet pops are a little bit of a different animal. It doesn't have any calories, but you have to think of it from a psyche standpoint. When you drink a diet soda, you're getting the flavor and the taste of the sugar, but you're not getting the satisfaction from the sugar. So it's still just not giving you the how can I say it, the satisfaction of getting a sugary drink from a regular pop. So you're still craving that sugar, even though you've had a diet soda or a diet pop.
Yeah.
So I usually tell them stay away from the diet drinks as a kid. So leave that for the adults.
Yeah. Okay, so question one from our chat. For anyone with kids cooking their own meals, are frozen foods a good option?
Frozen foods can be a good option, but you really, with any frozen food, you want to make sure you look at sodium content. So a lot of frozen foods and processed foods have a high sodium content. And with childhood obesity, like I was stating earlier, high blood pressure is a problem with childhood obesity, and foods with high sodium content that can increase the risk of elevated blood pressure coupled with the obesity.
Yeah. And just a side note for that, I know that kids eat a lot of sandwiches, and the deli meats can be high in sodium as well. So
exactly.
For either doc, how do you know if your child has an eating disorder?
Good one.
That's a great question, and sometimes it's very challenging. But I think that like with any other behavioral disorder, sometimes we may see differences in their personalities, a preoccupation with their weight. I'm not an advocate of necessarily spying on children, but if there's open communication, you're checking, what are they searching on the internet? What type of things are they preoccupying their time with? If they went from being pretty much a couch potato and playing video games to being in Peloton races, Dr. Scott, there may be some sign there. I think it's just always about making sure that there's open lines of communication with the children. I mean, there's some generalized symptoms that they could start to have, abdominal pain, headaches, lightheadedness, dizziness, if they're feeling sick to their stomach, nausea. We advocate for children to go to the dentist at least, twice a year. If there's changes in the teeth, there may be signs that, they're getting more acid exposure for those who may, be leaning towards bulimia. So there's lots of, physical signs, but I think the emotional signs, we need to be cognizant of it as well.
Yeah. And I just want to add for our guests that Chef Max is back on board. So if you have any specific questions regarding meal preparations, healthy foods, things like that, those questions are available too. Or he's available to answer those questions as well. Let's see, any other questions here? Let me look in the chat maybe and see. So here's a question. Someone mentioned adding fruits and vegetables to every meal. Can you provide examples for adding fruits other than adding them to salads, or adding vegetables other than salads?
Question to me?
Yes.
One of the ways, I mean, you can think about like using different salsas. So like if you're doing a grilled salmon or any kind of grilled fish or chicken, you can do a pineapple salsa, you do a mango salsa, you can do, pizza chutney. And so anything like that versus having, ice cream for dessert, maybe doing a fruit plate, something of that nature versus, yeah, there's always just more just adding to a salad, but you have some fun with it while cooking it. And I always say like salsas and slaws are really fun to add to your meals.
Okay. And one other question for you, Chef Max. What are some kid-friendly meal prep suggestions for after sports snacks? And even late snack. My son comes in the house like he hasn't eaten in 2 weeks, and eats immediately. He'll have dinner, and then, an hour and a half later, he's full out hungry again. What's something after, especially after a basketball game or something like that, what's a good after sport snack?
Well, anything that's going to give them some more fuel and fuel them back up. So any kind of fresh vegetables like doing, carrot sticks, celery sticks, and stuff of that nature, and just that would be good for them. And also when you finish, playing, if you take some fruit and dice it up and make a fruit kebab, that's something you just grab really quick. So I'm always like something you just grab that's prepared, ready to go. So if you have, fruit kebabs in the refrigerator ready to go, you just grab one and see you later. And then that, when I mentioned earlier, doing the yogurt pop sticks are really helpful too. Because this is one of those things that's really quick and you can grab it and go. So those are good things. And if you took like your granola and added chocolate to it, and then like the granola ball, and just had it on the counter ready to go. Anything you just kind of pop and pick up really fast and just take that crave away, versus going in and snacking on chips and everything else. I think it's easy.
Mm-hmm. Excellent suggestions. Thank you. I noticed in our chat too, one of our attendees made the comment, just in ways that that the kids have an eating disorder, not only the change in the appetite, but hiding food and eating in isolation. Those are two really important points as well. So we're getting close to the end of our presentation. So I think we're going to check back with Chef Miles to see how his dish turned out. I'm sure that it's absolutely delicious. So Miles, if we can get a look at you and take yourself off mute there and let us know how your meatballs turned out.
So my meatballs turned out pretty good. I have them right here, if you could see them.
And did you taste them?
Yeah, I tasted them. They're actually pretty good.
Okay, good. It's something that you would make again at home?
Probably.
Okay. Was it easy? Or was it hard to do, or was it pretty easy?
It was relatively easy because all I had to do was put it in the oven right after I was finished prepping it.
Okay. So, and what were some of your ingredients again? I remember you said garlic and onion, and what else did you put in?
Like Italian seasoning, but I also threw in Worcestershire sauce. So I could have the flavor of meat. I forgot to add some smoke to bring out more of the flavor, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's still pretty good. Okay. Now, the other question was that turkey meatballs or just beef meatballs?
No, they taste completely different.
Okay.
It's like a whole new world to me.
Okay. Well, but that's a start. We want to try with healthy things and keep experimenting until you find something that you really enjoy. So we appreciate Chef Max for sharing the recipe. And I certainly will have my kids in the kitchen a little bit more often. So when they do leave the house, they have some sense of how to cook something. My husband's a great cook, and I just benefit from having a good cook at home. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't do it very often. So well, actually, we have another poll, I think, before we get ready to close out. And if you guys can take a moment to fill out or check off the answers on the poll. And while you guys are doing that, I just want to take a moment to thank our panelists, Chef Max Hardy, Dr. Taylor, Dr. Thomas. You guys were absolutely amazing. You shared great information, and I'm sure we will all use that information to live healthier lives for not only our children, but ourselves. Chef Max, you made it easier to incorporate healthier food options in the house. So we'll be working hard to try to incorporate that more. And I'm definitely, like I said, getting my kids in the kitchen a little bit more. I want to thank the Motor City chapter of Jack and Jill of America for their partnership, and to Miles for all your hard work and doing an awesome job in making that meatball recipe. And like I said, my kids have some work to do. Thank you so much to our community partners, McLaren Healthcare, the American Heart Association. Thanks to all of our guests for attending, and we encourage you to share all the information that you got today with your friends and family, and let's make a difference with that. And special thanks to my Link sister, Cheryl Smith, our programming chair, for her amazing vision, hard work to make sure that all of our programs have been impactful and engaging in our community. So we just appreciate that. And we appreciate every single one of you who took some time out in your afternoon to learn a little bit more about healthy eating and childhood obesity. We want to make a change in our community for ourselves, our health, for better health, longer lives. And again, when you have, and even in my case, family history of heart disease and cholesterol issues and all those things, we want to make it better for our kids coming after us to have better habits and to live by example, like the doctors said. So are we almost able, are we able to, yeah, how are we doing on the poll? Okay, that's great. I think we got them all, got our answers there, and I think we are all done. Again, I so appreciate everyone that participated. And any other comments from our panelists? If anyone wanted to say anything before we sign off? All right.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for participating. We certainly appreciate each and every one of you. And you guys have a good weekend and rest of the afternoon. Take care.
Much.